Now that we've gone down the rabbit hole, we need to continue to further go down the rabbit hole.
Please, we'll do this for 18 hours.
I can't wait. You know how few wrestlers there are that can say I've had a match with Bret Hart? You've had a match with Bret Hart.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you could call it a match.
It's a match.
Bret Hart had a match, and I was there. But Bret Hart had a match with like a 300-pound bag of flour. And that was crazy.
You took some pretty great bumps in that match.
Look, I would happily, especially at that point, I was like in my early 20s, I would have broken my neck no problem. Sure, whatever. The problem with that is Bret Hart doesn't hurt anyone while he's wrestling. Not even a guy who stepped into a wrestling ring for the first time earlier that afternoon. It was insane.
That was the first time you ever took a bump earlier that afternoon?
Well, I mean, arguably, just growing up playing football and doing physical comedy and stuff and falling all over the stage at Mad TV. It's like Fatty falls down. That's not the hardest thing in the world to do, even though it's not going to look good. And I'm not going to be able to repeat it night after night, fuck shit, I'd just get in the fucking back of the Dodge there with Dirty Dutch Mantel and shit. I'd just be sitting at the fucking learning tree like, all right, just give it. I hated fucking driving with Ole. I fucking hate Ole. Arn was good. Fucking Ole is the worst booker to fucking drive with because you're like, shit, it's like fucking by the time we're out, I'm out. He's like, but the fucking walked in, I was in a tag team with Pillman. By the time I come out, I'm not even in the fucking Dangerous Alliance anymore. He wants to cut my hair.
Do you do a Bret Hart?
I do. Sasso, this is what he said to me. We go in there in the afternoon and he goes, oh, well, just run around and get used to it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Getting used to it.
Yeah, clearly Bret never trained anyone at the dungeon. Okay, guys, just, flip around, whatever my dad would have you do. Stu would say, just flip around on the mat, get used to it. No. He said, just run off the ropes and, So I go running at the ropes and you're supposed to, you tell me, you're supposed to do it on your lat, right?
Yeah.
On your lat muscle.
You grab it with your right arm,
okay.
You lean back.
Yeah. I don't know anything. I go, and I just run at it and just ding. And I felt my ribs go like pop, like,
oh no.
And I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting pain. And so I'm like, oh, this could be dangerous. Just doing anything could be dangerous in here. I don't know. I only grew up watching it. Then he just grabs me and does a Russian leg sweep. I will say this for myself. I know how to land flat on my back. Okay. So that's at least part of it. And then he goes, don't move until I move you. Just stay there. And I go, what's going to happen? Don't worry about it. I'll just feel it out. I mean, look, if he's going in there with whomever, one of them's going to call the match. I would imagine him in all throughout Bret's career, he's calling the match. These guys, these incredible artists, get in there and call this shit, or just by knowing what to do.
They just know.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And as a wrestling fan, it's still, my entire life later, I still don't get it. What they do. It's really, really remarkable. And it's a testament to how incredible Bret Hart is. Really is the best there is, best there was, and best there ever will be. Because again, he took a bag of potatoes and tossed me around and did all this stuff, and I didn't get hurt. And he's stomping me in the corner, and I'm like, and the foot he's coming in at 100 miles per hour, and then it's stopping. It was insane. And he, I'm laying on the ground. He'll pick me up. He's shoving me out of the ring. He's like kicking me out of the ring. I'm happy to fall face flat with my arms at my side because I just love doing that stuff, on Mad TV. So hopefully it was a nice combination of, the greatest wrestler, one of the greatest performers ever in professional wrestling on the Mount Rushmore, and some fat dude from a late night show. I don't know what we were
How
thinking.
did that even become a thing? Like Bret being on Mad TV is what started this whole thing.
Right. Well, I believe it started with Brian Hart, whom I mentioned, who was a Kids in the Hall writer. He was a writer, producer at Mad TV. And I believe he was lobbying to get Bret there and had met him. So we had him come in and do a sketch. And he did this sketch where he's like, we're this family and we're bullying our son, you know, and then Bret comes in, he's like his son's friend. And he's like, you're not going to bully anyone anymore. And, you know, it's Bret.
Yeah.
And at the end of the sketch, he leaves. And but Brian goes, hey, go back in there and just mess with Will on the second take. So he does. And then I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. This is the WWF champion at the time. And we're wrestling and he's up on the couch or something. And then I pick him up on my back and I start spinning around. Stupid. So look, the next year it's like, well, let's do a thing where Bret comes back, but then he attacks me with a chair and puts me in a sharpshooter. And the whole thing is like, this guy tried to make an ass of me the year before. And then we're doing like a, you know, like an Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman, homage to them. And so I was like we were back then, we were telling everybody it's real. And I was like, you know, like I did like a couple interviews with like Entertainment Tonight or whoever it was, Access Hollywood, like, yeah, I'm going to sue him. But then you go and we did the match in Tampa at Monday Nitro. And we go to the bar the night before and Bret's like, okay, so I'm going to go in first and then like give it like 20 minutes and then you can come in. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, because we're, you know, I'm like, yeah, but does everyone give a shit? I don't give a shit what everyone gives a shit about. Just come in 20.
Wow.
So I was like, all right. My buddies, like a couple of my buddies they flew in. They're like, we got to see this. So they're like, we're going in with Bret. And I was alone just in a corner of the bar in this big nightclub. And people would come up to me and go, hey, you know who's over here? Because they knew, you know, and we did a couple things running up to it. Like I interfered in a match with him and Roddy Piper. And so people were like, oh, maybe there's something going to happen.
Yeah.
You know who's in? Bret Hart's in here. I'm like, what? What do you mean? What's he doing in here? You know, and then afterwards I could finally hang out with Bret.